You wake up in the middle of the night. Your jaw is throbbing. The pain isn't like anything else, deep, relentless, impossible to ignore. You reach for your phone, find the nearest dentist, and by tomorrow afternoon, the problem is gone. Now imagine the same pain, same tooth, same infection spreading toward your jaw. But the year is 60,000 BC. There is no dentist. There is no painkiller. There is no number to call. There is just the pain, the darkness, and whatever your hands can reach. This is what most of human history felt like. And what people actually did about it is one of the strangest, most fascinating stories archaeology has ever uncovered. Let's start with a discovery that was made just weeks ago, in May 2026. Published in the journal PLOS ONE, researchers announced they had found the oldest known evidence of dental treatment in human history, not in a modern human, but in a Neanderthal. The tooth is called Chagerskaya 64. It's a lower left second molar, pulled from a cave in the Altai Mountains of Siberia, and it's roughly 59,000 years old. When researchers first found it in 2016, they weren't sure what to make of the unusual hole on its surface. A decade later, after microscopic analysis and careful reconstruction, the answer became clear. A Neanderthal had drilled into their own rotting tooth using a shard of jasper, a hard, sharp stone found throughout the cave. The circular marks lining the hole were too precise, too deliberate to be accidental. Different tools had been used at different stages. And here's the part that makes this extraordinary. The walls of the hole were smooth, not rough. That means the Neanderthal didn't die shortly after. They survived. They kept eating, kept living, and food polished the inside of the cavity over time. The procedure worked. 60,000 years ago, someone performed dentistry on themselves with a rock. And it worked. Archaeologist Penny Spickens from the University of York pointed out something else that makes this finding remarkable. The treatment would have initially made the pain worse before it got better. This wasn't an instinctive reaction to discomfort. It was a deliberate decision to endure short-term agony for a long-term gain. That kind of reasoning has an effect across time, applied to your own body, is not simple. It suggests a level of cognitive sophistication in Neanderthals that most people still don't associate with them. This discovery pushes back the timeline of intentional dentistry by more than 40,000 years. Before Chagerskaya 64, the oldest known dental treatment in modern humans dated to roughly 14,000 years ago in Italy. Now the record belongs to a different species entirely, but once Homo sapiens arrived on the scene, they got creative fast. The oldest evidence of dental drilling in modern humans comes from a Neolithic site in Pakistan called Mehrgarh, dating to around 7,000 to 9,000 years ago. Archaeologists found molars with perfectly round, conical holes bored into them using flint-tip drills. Several of the patients appeared to have lived for years after the procedure. They were already doing this before pottery, before writing, before metal. Around the same period, in what is now Slovenia, researchers found a human jawbone with a canine tooth covered in beeswax. The analysis suggested the beeswax was applied to a cracked tooth to seal it and reduce sensitivity, making it the earliest known dental filling. The tooth showed a vertical crack that would have caused extreme pain when exposed to air or pressure. Someone had figured out that covering it could help. These were not random acts. They were solutions. Imperfect, painful, sometimes wrong, but solutions. And the further back you go, the more they relied on what the earth around them could provide. Ancient Mesopotamian texts, some of the oldest written records in existence, described tooth pain in detail, and their response was a combination of medicine and ritual. One protocol involved grinding herbal and mineral substances into powder and placing them in leather pouches to be worn around the neck. Another recommended applying a mixture of salt and juniper directly to the affected tooth. Some incantations were recited over human skulls as part of the treatment. The logic wasn't entirely wrong. Juniper has genuine antimicrobial properties. Salt reduces inflammation. The rituals were ineffective, but the plants sometimes weren't. The ancient Egyptians had a more systematic approach. The Ebers Papyrus, a medical text dating to around 1550 BC, describes dental treatments in specific detail. Honey was used as an antiseptic, and modern research confirms it has genuine antibacterial properties. Crushed eggshells, ox hooves, and pumice were used as early toothpaste, abrasive enough to clean teeth but harsh enough to damage enamel over time. For loose teeth, A paste was applied externally to hold them in place. They also understood extraction not as a last resort, but as a recognized medical act. The ancient Greeks went further. They used opium and crushed garlic as topical pain relievers. Opium contains morphine, which actually suppresses pain signals. They didn't know why it worked, but they knew it worked. The Romans added engineering to the equation. Excavations near the Temple of Castor and Pollux in Rome uncovered 86 extracted teeth, many showing evidence of skilled removal. Analysis revealed traces of what may have been analgesics applied before extraction. Roman poet Martial described the use of gold fillings to repair broken teeth. Cicero mentioned a law explicitly exempting gold dental implants from burial restrictions, which historians read as evidence that gold implants were common enough to require specific legislation. The Romans also whitened their teeth using toothpaste made from human urine. Urine contains ammonia, which does dissolve stains. It was unpleasant. It worked. In China, a completely different tradition was developing in parallel. Silk manuscripts from tombs at Mawangdui, dating to around 168 BC, include a dental remedy made from finely ground elm bark, asmanthus, and other substances blended into a lard-based paste. Chinese medicine approached dental pain as a symptom of systemic imbalance. The tooth was not the problem, it was the signal. The Middle Ages brought some of the strangest remedies in the record. The Scots believed that a caterpillar, wrapped in red cloth and placed beneath the aching tooth, would absorb the pain. The Aztecs recommended chewing on hot chili, which actually has a basis in science, since capsaicin temporarily depletes the nerve signals that carry pain. In India around 650 AD, a surgeon named Vagbhata advised filling cavities with wax and then burning the wax with a heated probe, essentially cauterizing from the inside. Most of these treatments shared one feature: the assumption that something external was causing the pain. The concept of tooth decay as a biological process wasn't understood until the late 19th century. For most of human history, the dominant explanation was the tooth worm, a tiny creature burrowing through the tooth, causing decaying. This belief appears in Mesopotamian texts, in medieval European writings, in Chinese medicine, in ancient India. Across entirely separate civilizations that had no contact with each other, people arrived at the same wrong answer. Because the sensation of a rotting tooth genuinely feels like something moving inside it. And then there was the option that required no treatment at all, because it required no survival. Dental infections killed people, routinely. A tooth that rotted far enough would spread infection to the jaw, then to the throat, then to the brain or bloodstream. A broken tooth in the ancient world was not just painful, it was a potential death sentence. The ones who found solutions: the stone drill, the beeswax seal, the juniper paste, the gold filling, were the ones who survived long enough to pass on what they had learned, which is why what happened in Chagarskaya Cave 59,000 years ago matters more than it might seem. A Neanderthal looked at a rotten tooth, picked up a piece of sharp stone, and made a decision: this hurts, I can change that, and I know how. That is the entire history of medicine in a single moment. Pain, observation, intervention, result. Every filling you've ever had, every extraction, every root canal, every numbing injection, all of it traces a direct line back to that cave in Siberia. To a Neanderthal who couldn't bear the pain any longer and decided to do something about it, the tools have changed. The understanding has changed. The suffering, and the refusal to simply accept it, hasn't changed at all.